Hi everyone, Rain Tano here, the internet's rainiest music nerd, and it's time for a Why You Know review, where I go over Gauntlet style, a series of records I didn't get a chance to do a full-length, in-depth review of over the past month or so. So I'm here addressing these albums in brief, one after the other, and yeah, that's it. That's what we do here. That's what we do here. So without further ado, the latest Why You Know review. On paper, I feel like The Garden continues to be one of those bands that I should enjoy more than I actually do. More now on this latest record than I did on their last one, as they've taken a lot of the experimental and weirdo post-punk sounds of that record and fused it with elements of hip-hop and electronic music and more. And now that more elements and influences are in the mix, certainly things are as interesting as ever. But I don't know, I just kind of feel like most of the time the songs are just a little too goofy and disheveled to be all that memorable or be taken that seriously, I guess. I appreciate them for trying, though. You know, they're certainly trying to do something different. The new Black Milk record, it's an album that I feel like I should enjoy more than I do, but then I keep forgetting that I didn't care for his last record all that much anyway, and though this latest record isn't much like that last album, I guess it has some of his weirdest and most psychedelic production yet. That's certainly a change of pace, but I feel like these slightly stranger beats don't really add up to all that much, and if the production isn't hitting hard and he's not bringing some interesting topics to the table, I don't know, man. I mean, Black Milk's voice, his flow, his rapping has never been one of his strengths. You know, he's always been a better producer than he's been a rapper. And if the song topics, the song ideas, and the production is just kind of so-so, I mean, you're kind of getting to the strengths, what typically should be strengths of a Black Milk record, and they end up being either mediocre or just weaknesses, so... You know, there's been a lot of people freaking out about this record and shitting on this record and hating on Snoop Dogg for this record, and I'm not going to say it's great, but I can appreciate what he was trying to do with this thing. Like, it's not a Snoop Dogg album, it's Snoop Dogg presenting this album. It's like he has a passion for Christ and gospel music, and he's just sort of curating a series of gospel tracks that he likes. And if you actually look into the track list here, you know, some of the features are kind of a who's who of, like, people doing well in gospel music that happens to be popular in black churches. You know, there's even a Mary Mary feature on here, and even frickin' Patti LaBelle is on a track, who sings pretty well, you know, during her feature, during her performance. Some of the vocals are kind of inspiring. Then again, some of the tracks are kind of awful too, which I feel like is sort of an inevitability when you're talking about an album of 30-plus tracks, 2 hours of music. I mean, if there's anything lackluster about this record, it's really just the runtime. I feel like if Snoop really cared this much about this kind of music, maybe he would have cared to break it down into a couple of sister albums spread across maybe a year or so, and really kind of cut it back to the best, most essential tracks. If anything, that's what kind of makes this album unlistenable. It's not even split up into a double album. You know, it's just kind of like this endless slog of just contemporary gospel music. But it does have highlights, so I don't think it's totally terrible. You're watching the music news. Now in the music news, metalcore band that has never really been able to come out with a great record in the over 20 years that they've been around still can't come out with a great record. More at 11. This super progressive, experimental, and almost like post-rock type band from Canada is back with another album. It sounds as epic as ever, but I don't know. Whenever it comes to Yamantaka's records, I feel like there's a note of grit or melody or just something that's just lacking. I don't know what it is. Like, every single project I hear from them sounds gargantuan, sounds like it should be exciting and epic, but it just kind of fails to connect with me. Maybe it's just a personal thing at the end of the day, but maybe really what this band needs is for more people to know about what they're doing. I mean, as much as I feel somewhat underwhelmed by it, and I can't quite put a finger on why, I do feel like they're doing interesting things that are deserving of more attention. So, You know, if you're into experimental rock, you're into post-rock, you're into bands trying to write something epic, gargantuan, larger than life, and obviously like there's a bit of a Far East twist to some of the music and some of the themes running through this band's music, make sure to give this thing a shot. Check it out. You know, for a first outing of sorts, this Flowertruck record is not all that bad. If you're into a nice even blend of post-punk and synth-pop, you're probably going to like this. And I also kind of like the way that the chunky Australian accent of the lead singer adds a lot of character to the record. However, I feel like some of the songs here, a little underwritten, a little so-so, and as a whole, while I did enjoy a lot of the singles going into this album, I feel like there's not quite enough sonic diversity across the runtime of this album to keep it feeling and sounding fresh and exciting throughout the entire thing. Still though, quite a few highlights on this thing, and if you're hardcore for that new wave or post-punk sound, you're probably going to want to give this a shot. Oh, Jangle Pop too. They definitely appeal to the Jangle Poppers. This new Diplo EP, it's actually not too bad. It's sort of, I guess, unusual for him. He's not dabbling in his typical instrumental styles, and that's also kind of the case for a lot of the guests he has on this EP. It's almost like it was his goal to put a lot of the singers on this record, especially Dram, who does pretty well on his cut, into musical context that you usually don't catch them in. And, you know, a few of the tracks on here are pretty lackluster, kind of a mess. But you know, the Santi Gold and Yachty track is great. The Dram track is pretty good. There are some bangers here. Yeah, not in the traditional sense, as not all the production is, you know, hard-hitting shit like that. But there's some good cuts on here. It's all right. It's decent. You know, if you love old school rock and roll and soul and doo-wop, and you like to hear that stuff kind of revitalized with a somewhat tongue-in-cheek indie punk twist and a pretty good sense of humor and irony, like, you definitely want to check out Shannon and the Clams. They've been at it for a long time. They've never really quite gotten the shine that I think that they should have gotten, like during the days of Black Lips, like being as popular as they were years ago. But, you know, they're still at it, they're still doing their thing, and there's not a whole lot of artists out there in the indie scene that I could think of that are kind of rocking the sound that Shannon and the Clams are right now with the devotion that they have for as long as they have. So, shout out to them. I mean, it's not the greatest thing I've ever heard, but it's a pretty fun sound. It's really to the point where all of these trap rappers are so cookie cutter that I could not tell them out of a lineup if you had me listen to many of them in a row. It's really records like this that give old heads credibility when they're like, all these rappers sound the same. All these rappers just sound the same. It's really to the point where all of these trap rappers are so cookie cutter that I could not tell them out of a lineup if you had me listen to many of them in a row. It's really records like this that give old heads credibility when they're like, all these rappers sound the same. All these rappers just sound the same. This album sucks. My boy Chuck Strangers pretty much came through with a decent little album over here. Chuck of pro-era fame. He's not just a producer, he's a rapper as well. You've heard him on those tracks. And he pretty much raps and produces for the majority of this album. Has some decent guests on here as well. I mean, I wouldn't say Chuck is so proficient or vibrant a rapper that he just kind of floors me for the length of an entire project, but hey, you know, he's doing his thing, he's showing off his talents, and I think with more time and more experience under his belt, he could kind of get out of the pro-era shadow and get a nice, healthy underground rap career going or something, you know? It's a possibility. You know, I'm hearing potential here. Hearing potential. Some people were asking me the other day, Anthony, why do you ignore all the bedroom pop? Where's the love for the bedroom pop? And certainly Frankie Cosmos is one of the biggest names in that sound, in that genre at this very moment. And this record's not bad, but I feel like if this is one of the most significant releases that style of music has to offer at the moment, then, I mean, it's not in the best place. I mean, I'm not saying this is terrible, but the instrumentation's kind of bland. The vocals leave a lot to be desired. I mean, I know bedroom pop is all about the imperfections, but I feel like there's just a real lack of ambition on this record. Really, this album for me is just kind of the soundtrack to underachievement. There are some kind of sweet vocal melodies and some cute and introspective or even funny little lyrical quips on this thing, and I think that there are probably a lot of sad suburbanite indie kids who's feeling like this album's like their Bible, you know? And I totally understand, I respect that. And I can appreciate the short song format as well, and I think it's cute, and I think it's fun. But is it like making me want to come back and listen to it? Like it's certainly pleasant and nice while it's on, but it's certainly not, you know, creating an itch where I'm like addicted to it or anything, you know? It's all right. For this record and his last one, not the collaborative one, the solo one, Phonte has pretty much kind of cornered the market on these like struggling grown man raps. Like he's literally writing bars on this thing where he's just talking about stress eating and blood sugar. And certainly there is room for maturity in hip hop. I mean, as of late, I've heard so many more records and so many more songs that I love, I think are great, where older rappers are talking about their livelihood, their age, their family. Kanye comes to mind, Jay-Z comes to mind, and there are a lot of other examples too. Phonte's approach, though, seems so much less urgent to me, and in a way, kind of sad, but not necessarily in a terrible way. It's almost like his stuff has like a real broad stroke of reality to it. Because, you know, not every moment of a person's life, especially at this age, is glamorous and glorious and impressive to share. I sort of appreciate that about this record, that Phonte is able to go past that TMI barrier and just be like, I'm going to be vulnerable and just really kind of throw it all out there. If anything kind of holds me back from loving this LP, it's just kind of the bland instrumentation, the so-so song structures. It's kind of short as well. But still, I very much appreciate his candor and his frankness. I think he's actually being more frank and honest than a lot of rappers around his age range, and hey, even younger too, are willing to be on the microphone. So, I don't know, if you just want to hear like some fucking real man raps, like, this is it. Yeah, I could barely make it through 5 minutes of this record. It's so goddamn overly dramatic. It's so melodramatic. It's so cloying. Like it's so goddamn overly sentimental. I just can't. The cringily sad lyrics, the super atmospheric and dainty guitar rock. The most of the singing sounds like it's just borderline crying. I really can't handle it. It's just so sickening. It makes me want to throw up. I was this close to just doing a not good on it, honestly. Like I just can't. I can't stand it. I can't stand it at all. I'm sorry. I apologize. I apologize to the fans. The last record was so much more palatable. I didn't love it, but I could at least tolerate it. You know, no, I can't deal with this at all. I can't. I really can't. I'm at my wit's end. I'm about to have a heart attack. I have a condition. I can't deal with this. I'm sorry. New Rock Marciano album here. Still got that low-key monotone flow. Still got that vaguely jazzy, soulful, very lightly like ambient East Coast instrumental style that he typically rides. A lot of kind of mafioso type verbiage. It's kind of really what we expect from him at this point. Not a whole lot to report. A few dope bits of wordplay there. Feel some type of way, you know, while you're on the internet typing away, that sort of thing. You know, that was pretty dope. That was smart. But outside of that, it's just kind of business as usual. It's just all right. It's average rock project. Zishin, have you given any of these albums a listen? Did you love them? Did you hate them? What would you rate them? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe. And please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is our YUNOREVIEW playlist. That and the link to subscribe to the channel. That's it. Love you, love you, love you. Anthony Fantano, forever.